What about the melting of the Arctic ice? Isn't that proof positive? No. And again, we run into some very suspicious methodology here, including that they'll say, well, this is the smallest extent of Arctic ice since satellite coverage began. Satellite coverage began in the 1970s, which was at the end of a recognized period of cooling on the Earth. As a matter of fact, we know that the Norwegian polar explorer Roald Amundsen navigated the Northwest Passage in 1905 in a wooden sailboat with a crew of 7 people. And in 1944, a little RCMP patrol vessel called the Saint-Roch sailed from Halifax to Vancouver in a single season and met little ice. Al Gore, particularly in his documentary, makes a great big deal about polar bears drowning. His poor animated polar bear just doesn't make it. But if the polar bears survived much less ice in the Arctic at least twice in the 20th century, if the polar bears survived the medieval warm period, the Roman warm period, and the Minoan warm period, what grounds are there for believing that they wouldn't survive if temperatures went up by about 2 degrees? And this connects to this larger point about predictions of disaster if the world gets warmer. For instance, that there will be a significant die-off of corals and poster plants and animals for the beauty of nature. But here's the problem. Most types of coral are between 5 and 100 million years old. They've survived an extraordinary range of climatic conditions. Not just the warmer periods we know during the Holocene, but a lot of them went through the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, and they're still around. Another claim that's received a lot of publicity is that the oceans are rising. We're melting the ice caps, fresh water is pouring into the sea, and small, helpless Pacific Island nations are being washed away, and possibly so will major coastal cities from Calcutta to Miami. In the year 2005, the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that climate change would create 50 million climate refugees by the year 2010. How do they deal with that not coming true? They took it down off their website. But the problem here is really twofold. One is that the oceans have been rising ever since the beginning of the Holocene. The other problem is that this isn't a question of the oceans going up while the land just sits there, like if the tap is running in the bathtub and you forget to turn it off.
Sea level has been rising at a rate of about 7 to 9 inches per century over the last, say, 200 years. That's likely to continue. The other problem we have is trying to determine the effect of sea level rise on the coast. In Delaware, for example, what we have are barrier islands. These are quite often shaped dramatically by the effect of nor'easters, of tropical storm remnants, and so forth. So it's very difficult to be able to say, well, here this was not underwater, and now it's underwater, so that must have been sea level rise. We also have the problem in Delaware that we have compaction of sediments. We are glacial outwash. We are essentially in an area where there's an isostatic rebound, where the land is subsiding due to the loss of ice sheets higher up, and as a result, the coastline is itself receding. This receding coastline has nothing to do with carbon dioxide.